Hey girl, hey, welcome to the SheShed. I am super excited that you are here. This month, we're talking about Child Awareness or Children Awareness Month. This is Children Awareness Month. And if you don't know what that means, this is a time where this is the month set aside to talk about children, pour into our children, see how we can help them to actually be prepared for what's coming. It's an opportunity for us to really talk about our childhood and help young people to see that there is really nothing new under the sun. Well, let me ask you, do you think there's something new under the sun? Do you think that the things that they're going through today is the things that we experience as children? I have mixed feelings on some of it. I think some of the things that we are experiencing or they are experiencing, we wouldn't have been able to deal with, and some of the things that we dealt with, they wouldn't be able to deal with. So I think it goes both ways. But tonight, what we're in the SheShed, and we are actually have a guest. I have a phenomenal young lady that raised her hand and say, "Hey, I want to share my story too." So I'm excited. I put the plea out, and she said yes. And y'all know I love yeses. And so I am going to give way for her to come in and introduce herself as she would like. So if you hold on one moment, I am going to get Miss Nicole Hiser. Hi, sir. She gonna fix that because I keep messing up her name and I don't like that. But I'm gonna let her come into the studio. Hold on one moment. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to the She Shed. So, you know what the She Shed is, but for those that are maybe visiting from your page, or those this is the first time they are stepping foot into the She Shed, I just want to give a little highlight. The She Shed is a segment that comes from the Boss Up podcast. The Boss Up podcast is all about helping women step into and become the CEO of their own life. And what we do in the She Shed is we give opportunity for women to share their story and show how they bossed up. And Nicole bossed up. She is a coach, a mentor, a speaker. She's a an author. She's a mom. She has a lot going on. But I'm gonna leave space for her to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she do. And then we're gonna dive in and see how she started doing all that. But first, what we want to know is who are you, and what do you do, girlfriend?
Well, thank you again for having me here. I really appreciate it. I love talking to everyone about my story and letting people know that they're not alone out there. Um, I am Nicole Hiser, and you had it right the second time. It's German. I am a published author of fiction and nonfiction, and soon to be children's books with my daughter. I'm a mom. I am also a personal development and motivational speaker where I help individuals who suffer from past traumas from their childhood, teach them techniques so that they can overcome obstacles that resulted from that, like anxiety and depression and PTSD and different triggers that we all know that come from certain experiences in our life. And I decided to change the statistics and not be my past and not let my past dictate my future. And I know how hard it is, especially when you get to that plateau of life where you just feel like you're stuck. And I found techniques that actually help. And I just want to teach them to everybody I can and essentially be the person that I didn't have growing up. I didn't have somebody come in and say, "You're safe now. You're okay. You're not alone. You're enough."
Yeah,
I
I love it. We're
decided when
gonna
I was
jump
younger that I wanted to be that.
Yeah, we're gonna jump into the things the techniques that you have developed and you have learned over the years. But before we get there, I want to you mentioned that you do children books with your daughter, which is really really cool, and I think that is really key to bring our children into it, because what we teach them now is what they're going to use later on in life. So, how did you start writing books with your daughter? How did that come about?
Well, first it was more of a my daughter has special needs. So being a book lover and a huge reader ever since I learned how to read when I was like 5, teaching her to read was essential. It was on number 1 on the list because it helps in so many different aspects. And so I read to her and she loves to draw and color and paint. So one of the things that we decided to do was just to combine that, and every book that we publish, I write the stories and she does the illustrations. Every book
I
that we
love it.
publish, all the proceeds go to our charity that is going to help other special needs families.
I love that. I love it. That's so cool. I think we need to involve our kids in our everyday life so that they are aware that anything is possible. Um, and so you were saying that you started um, your um, your business, your mentoring program, your speaking, because you realize that there are people out there that had trauma from the past, but they didn't know how to use it. And there was one key thing that you said that I really loved, is that you wanted to be a place or a space for someone because you didn't have that when you was growing up. So what is your story? What is the thing that you felt that you needed someone to tell you you were enough? What was going on with you?
Well, my story actually started off very, very young. My parents, uh, my very first memories were of them fighting and yelling and hurting one another. I lived in the first house we lived in until I was 10, and that's the only memories I have there is their literal hurting each other.
Mm,
And at 6 years old, I threw away all my toys because I
mm,
decided I had to protect and shelter my little sister from it. And then when I turned 10, 11, that's when I finally start realizing that what happened at home wasn't normal.
mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
back then you didn't talk about that. That was family business. You don't talk about that. So
Right.
for the first decade of my life, I thought it was normal. And then when my parents divorced, my mother and her new husband was extremely abusive and addicted to many different drugs. And that was our life for the rest of our childhood. It was one of those things where my friends, if they got in trouble at school, they were worried about being grounded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Us, we were grounded over little things all the time that didn't ever make any sense. If we got in trouble at school, we worried about getting hurt or worse. And we were always around the drugs and everything else. And it was just terrifying. I started having panic attacks when I was 12 years old, and I had no idea that that's what it was. Every time that they would start fighting, I would just be in my room flipping out. That's all I knew it was I was flipping out because when they fought, I didn't know what was coming next. And I
Right.
knew that myself and my little sister was in danger. And being in survival mode most of my life and being the protector and then having guilt when things happen to my little sister and guilt when I allowed that trauma to program me to accept certain things in my adult life that ended up leading to myself being sexually harassed and assaulted and raped. all of that shame on top of the survival mode, it just built my anxiety and my depression and my self-worth just depleted to nothing.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to deprogram yourself when you don't heal from it first.
that's true. That's true. So the abuse was not just amongst the two of them. Some of the abuse was also directed to you and your sister.
Yes. To the point that sometimes they involved their friends,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
which made it just even more humiliating.
Yeah. So, when you think of the things that you experienced as a child, um, what what is your I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. When you think of the things that you experienced as a child, now that you are gone through you're going through your healing process and you have pretty much healed from that part of it. But now we can look back. What is something that you are really wanting to make sure that you share with the world?
That you're never alone. There is always someone willing to listen. And I understand how the system works against you sometimes. Growing up around all of that, I seen good parents get their kids taken away. And I seen parents like my mother and her husband keep kids in abusive and addictive situations. And whenever authorities and CPS got involved for us, it made things worse. It made things more dangerous. So I
Mm,
understand that. But there were times when, for years, every night, I would be hoping someone would come and rescue us. But not everyone else, not everyone has someone else to rescue them.
right.
Sometimes we got to do that ourselves. Graduated
Right. That's true. So you said so I want to
and
dive into that because there is
came
someone
back.
that
I rescued my sister and my
you rescued yourself and your sister. Is that what you were saying? Because there's like a little bit of a delay, so I'm trying to make sure I don't cut you off. Um, you said that when you were, you came back and you felt like you had to come back and rescue your sister. But before we go there, you were saying how, even in the midst of that, you was wanting someone to come and save you. I want to talk about that for a minute. Because a lot of times we see parents that will stay and remain in situations for the children. Let's just say the mothers will stay in that relationship because they want, their children to have this or have that. And your words were pretty much that you was hoping that someone would come and save you from this. You want to talk about that for a minute, how that felt?
uh the number one thing is your kid just wants you to be happy and healthy. Your kid never wants you to be in a situation where they see you getting hurt. And also, in my adult life, I've come to understand this with other relationships that I have to be a role model for my kid. I can't allow certain things to be done to me, or I can't allow certain people to treat me certain ways because she's going to accept that that's normal or
Hmm.
that that's okay.
Hmm.
Not just for someone else to treat her like that, or but for her to treat someone else like that.
Right.
And that's not okay for me. I have to set the example for my kid and let her know, no, that's not normal. We do not accept that. And that's one of the things that I'm teaching my daughter and my godson now is boundaries. I was 30 years old before I started learning how to make my own boundaries. I want my kids to know how to do that now so that they have
Hmm.
healthy relationships as adults and they don't have to deal with being treated that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about where you are now as an adult, what type of what did your the childhood trauma that you experienced? You tapped on it a little bit and said that you were in multiple relationships that were not that were mishandled. That's why I always like to say you was mishandled. Do you think, and where do you see your childhood having played a role in your acceptance of some of that abuse?
Well, something that I just recently aha moment. uh, uh, Most of my intimate relationships were not good. They were very toxic, and there was arguing and fighting, and that's just not my nature. And there's even things that happen to my body physically whenever somebody's arguing around me because of my childhood. So that was just a complete breakdown. But I realized that I was leaning towards men in my intimate relationships for their guidance on how to be a man and how to be a good person, because I didn't have that
Mm,
example when I was growing up. My dad is a great person, but he worked. He wasn't really there. My mother and her husband was. And I've realized that pretty much every intimate relationship I've had leading up to a certain point a few years ago was I was trying to look for that guidance of in that example of what that's supposed to be.
mhm, mhm.
And also it stems from when you get treated a certain way or somebody tells you a certain thing so many times you start to believe it, and eventually you start to believe that you deserve it. And
Exactly.
it might take a long time for some of us to stop thinking and believing in that and realizing that no, you don't get to treat me like that. I
Mhm,
deserve better and I demand better.
mhm. So what was your turning point? What was that moment that happened that made you um say, okay, enough's enough. I deserve better. What happened to change that around for you? What was your aha moment?
So it kind of came to me in two phases. One was when I had my daughter, because I was completely focused on her, and then she was diagnosed. So relationships was out the window. I was like, one, I'm a single mom. She just got diagnosed. I'm not even trying to bring another person into this. But then
Right.
when I started dating again, I started realizing I was pretty much dating the same person over and over and over. And
Mhm.
then a few years ago, I had a relationship with someone, my biggest intimate relationship, and it was very intertwined with certain family members because they knew him first and introduced me. And there was a lot of narcissistic abuse from toxic family members. And then he was very abusive in his own way, too. And I was just trying to be the people pleaser and just
Mhm.
take it because I love them and I love them and I don't want to hurt anybody. And it was one of those things that women, we sometimes do this thing that we break up with you a week before you know we did. And
Yeah.
when I did do that and I officially broke up with him, I just completely shut down. My anxiety got to a point that I was having panic attacks 4 and 5 times a day for hours on end, depression for 3 months at a time. It was so bad that it wasn't just affecting me emotionally and behaviorally, but I seen it in my body. I seen that I was
Mhm.
so stressed and exhausted that I know now if I wouldn't have pulled away from different people and put myself first, I would have been in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And it took me that long to realize we've all heard the saying, if you're on a plane and there's masks that fall down, put on you first, then
Yeah,
your kid. And I was always like, I'm going to save my kid first. But now I realize I look at it as my energy battery. If I'm running on 50%, I only have 50% effort to give to anybody else.
that's right.
And I believe that my kids and certain people I love deserve more than 50% from me. So I have to fill me up first too. So I
What
had
does
to
that
start
look
putting
like?
myself first.
Yeah. What does it look like to fill yourself up first?
Uh, Taking time for self care,
What's self care?
uh, self care, deciding that certain toxic relationships are better off cut tied with, um, even if they're family, because we all deserve to be loved and genuinely cared for. And one thing my family has taught me throughout the years is the definition of conditional love. And
That's good.
I had to choose me. And when it came to my mental health and being able to take care of my daughter the way I want to be able to take care of her, I could no longer do that while trying to please them. So I had to just put myself first and take the leap. And sometimes that's all it is. You find out, okay, this is what I want from my life, but it requires this big thing I am terrified to do. Well, sometimes we have to do that thing. Sometimes we just have to take the leap of faith. And when you do, it makes all the other fears look so much smaller and so much easier to destroy and get over. And once you start doing that, it builds some sorry, it builds momentum.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just making sure that you have time for yourself and checking
yeah.
yourself regularly. I have to keep myself in line all the time. Like, wait a second, no. Like, I'm getting stressed out. I'm getting overwhelmed. I cannot afford to get burned out for 3 months.
Right. I like that. I like what you just said, checking yourself and checking in with yourself. What does checking in with yourself look like? What does that look like? If somebody's listening, how do they check in with themselves?
Well, one of the big ways I do it is I write down everything I'm afraid of, all of my triggers, anything that causes me to have anxiety or fear or worry or stress. And then I start working on each and every one of them. And when you do it, ask yourself why. Why is this thing affecting you this way? And
Hmm,
then you keep
hmm,
asking yourself why, and over
hmm.
until you get to the root of it. And sometimes
Exactly.
when you get to the root of it, you're lucky enough to find out it was something that happened 10 years ago. You're not around those people anymore. You're not even in the same situation. And you are carrying that burden that was never yours to carry. So you could just drop it
Exactly.
off and never pick it up again.
That's good. That's
It's
good.
just,
What other resources have
yeah.
you found that has helped you to navigate through your healing journey? Because now
Uh, Finding people,
I want to get into your what you do now. So we know why you started what you do now, but what is it that you actually do? Um, and what are the resources or things that not resources, tools that you can share that can help someone that's actually listening? What can they do at this point if they're in this situation?
well, I teach different techniques that I found over time that really help. And some of them are, like I said, digging deeper into the root cause. And I call it either tearing out the roots or the big ones that stem into every little part of your system and your life. You got to dissolve those ones with some heavy duty stuff So
Right.
those require a little bit more journaling and really finding out your why. And you can't you can't destroy the obstacles in your life until you find out the reason they're there.
That's good.
There there's so many obstacles that we put on ourselves, like limiting beliefs that I can't be successful, I can't make $1 million, or I can't write a book. I had one of my family members tell me that that's a silly little dream. We are the people that we're never going to get anywhere. You work to have a little bit of fun, and that's it. And I, I let that affect me for some years, but then I let it drive my purpose. I let it fuel me because those are the things that we usually let degrade us. But
Yeah.
if we check it, that's not really our belief, that's their belief.
Your belief. Hmm.
So, checking your limiting beliefs and digging deeper to the root causes of everything and talking to someone. I didn't
Mm.
talk about uh, my rape for 7 years. I literally pushed it back to the back in my mind because I could not deal with it at the time.
Hmm.
And then my brain just decided to pop it in one day. It was like, yeah, you're ready to deal with this now.
Yeah.
But talking to people about it helps, but in that way, it doesn't just help you, it helps other people because you're letting them know, even if they aren't at that phase where they can admit what's going on, they hear you and they see you, and you can be an example to them that they're not alone in this world. They're not alone in what they're going through. The people are here. People have survived this and they will too. And
Yeah.
they are enough. They've
Yeah.
always been enough.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could go back to the little girl that was in your room listening to your parents argue and know what you know now, what would you what would you tell her as it relates to sitting in that room hearing it? And then I have another question that's kind of similar.
I would tell her that she's not alone, that there's always someone there, and that it does get better. She does survive this. And she doesn't just survive it, she thrives. The dreams that she had when she was so little, she's done that. That what's going on right now is just temporary. It's not permanent.
Mm,
And
that's good.
it's going to strengthen you. Maybe outside it looks like you're broken, but inside you're strong and you still have that hope. And that's what's built how much you care for people because you know the worst, but you also know how to bring out the best.
That's good. That's good, Nicole. I like that. I like that. So, if you had to, if you know, when you're thinking about the things that you experienced as a child and now as an adult, and the experiences you had prior to what you're doing now with helping other people, one of the things that you said is you felt you had to go back and save your sister. Um, and I'm sure that she's very appreciative of that. How do you how do you find yourself, or do you find yourself trying to save others that you are working with, and how do you kind of put it so that they are helping themselves instead of you becoming their person to make them do it? How do you handle that?
Just by empowering them, by not only helping them dispel all of the past trauma, but refill themselves with high vibrational energy that lets them know that there is hope, that they do have the answers and the tools and the resources. They do have people at their side. And they're not going to be in this place that they're at right now forever. Just empowering them to know that I survived this, so I know you can. There is
Mm,
absolutely no doubt in me that you can survive this too.
right. Right. That's good. So I know one of the questions that, I had told you I was going to ask is what would you want others to know as they navigate through their own healing journey? Like we tapped on it a little bit, but what are some real nuggets that you can give someone that is sitting there now thinking about, I hear her, I understand what she's saying, but what would you say to her but?
Well, first, don't give up the fight. I've been there, and I was at my lowest of lows, and I vowed to myself when I had my daughter, I would never allow myself to think that way of myself again. Do
Mhm.
not give up the fight. We need you here because your story is going to help so many other people, even if it's not speaking to other people. It could just be giving someone a smile or caring about somebody enough to feed them that day. Your story is going to help.
Yeah.
And let them know that, like I said, it's always been enough. Not now because they're succeeding. Not now because they've gotten over this valley in their life. They have always been enough. You just wasn't around people that seen it. And
Mhm.
you will
Mhm.
find your people. And sometimes that means cutting ties with people that don't deserve to be in your life. When
Absolutely.
you realize that you're carrying burdens that are not yours, but someone else's burdens, drop it off. Don't pick that up. That's not yours to carry, that's theirs to carry. And you could support them, but don't carry it. Just like
Mm.
Frodo and Sam. Sam said, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. So you can
Mm.
support them, but you can't carry it for them.
That's good.
And just
That's good.
remembering that every day you're here is a brighter day because you didn't give up the hope. Don't ever let the hope die out. I for years I was so ready to just give up, but there was just an ember of hope left in me that was just a dying ember, but I could feel it in there because I knew that I had bigger and better things waiting for me, that I was capable of it. I was just listening to all the other things. And
Mm.
it's time to stop listening to everyone else and listen to your heart. Let
Oh,
your
that's
heart
good.
and your love lead your life.
Yeah, that's good.
If you do
So when you
that and you lean into it, you'll succeed at everything.
yeah.
There's no
So when you
limit. You can
say
live the
you had
life of your
bigger,
dreams.
you said you had bigger things to do. Where do you see yourself going now? What's next for Nicole? What is it that you want to do now?
Well, I want to start speaking at bigger events and talking to more and more people and just giving them the techniques that I've learned throughout my life that actually help, especially the people that feel stuck. We all get to that phase where we're doing all the work, we're putting in the time, we're doing all the things, but the bank account hasn't shifted. We're not bringing in nothing more, and we're just like, what? Like, I'm missing something. You're not missing that. You're just not seeing it from a different perspective. And so you just feel stuck. But can teach you how to unstick your life. I know that's not a word, but that's my word. I can teach you how to unstick your life and actually get through it and succeed in your life. I I wanted to be a writer when I was 6 years old. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be an author when I was 11 because I found out I could make my classmates feel what I wrote, and I thought that was so cool. I am a writer. I'm a published author. I'm a mom, and I now get to live a life where I help people and I'm that person I didn't have. So as long as I get to keep doing that and just keep climbing, I don't want to stop. I just want to keep climbing, reach bigger audiences, reach as many people as I can, help as many people as I can, and continue writing books on the side for fun because writing books, so many people read them for escape like I did for a kid. And I
Mhm.
love books and I want to keep that magic alive for many generations to come. So I'm just
I
going to keep
love
doing what
it.
I'm doing on bigger and bigger scale.
I love it. I love that. So, how can someone, if someone want to learn more about you and what you're doing, or to get you to come and speak at their event, how would they get in contact with you?
They can go to my website at nlhentrepreneur.com or email me at the same thing, nlhentrepreneur@gmail.com. And uh, on my website, it has a little bit of everything on there. I'm currently editing a highlight reel to add to it, but that takes time because I'm not very good at editing. But you can reach me on either one of those at any time and just reach out.
Okay, and you're saying NLLH
Yes, NLH, entrepreneur.
.com.
Yep,
All right. I wanted to make sure I had it correct. Is that right?
yep,
All
yep.
right.
You can go there and find me in all of the things I do.
So I'm just super excited. I thank you for coming into the She Shed and sharing your story with us. I think that is so important. Hold on one second. I have a tickle in my throat. I think it's so important for us to realize and understand some of the things that you said. With it is really about realizing and understanding where you were, what you went through, but not staying there, right? And so I want to say thank you for sharing that
Yes.
with us and being vulnerable and sitting in the seats and letting other people know you're not alone and you are enough. And if I can get you to hold on one moment, I am going to close us out and then I'm going to come back and talk with you.
Okay.
All right, so y'all heard what Nicole said, and it's a lot of things that we can talk about that came out of what she said. But the first thing I want to talk about is this. She said you're going to have to dig deep and you're going to have to dig in there and ask yourself the why questions. You're going to have to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And once you get that answer, you're going to have to ask yourself again, why am I feeling that way? If you're scared, why are you scared? What made you scared? What has placed fear in your heart? And then well, it was because it was raining outside. Well, what happens when it rained? What happened when it rained that scared you? Well, when I was a little girl, I was in a storm and I was scared. Well, why was you scared? Nobody was around. Oh, well, where was everybody else? I don't know. Well, why was you scared? Because nobody was around. You have to ask yourself those deep questions because now you can realize that you are afraid of the storm because you was lonely. You was left by yourself as a child. We have to realize and understand that some of the things that we go through in life as an adult, it stems from what we experienced as a child. So you want to make sure that while you are out here and you're moving around, that you don't allow what happened when you was a child dictate who you are right now because you're bigger than that now. Now, I'm not saying that you walk around and you act like it didn't happen. that would be a lie. That means you're lying to yourself. That means you're putting a mask on. And we don't do that. We are honest and we stand force of who we are and what we believe. But we also have to realize and understand and dig deep, just like Nicole said, dig deep inside of you and find out what's really going on. The other thing I thought about what she was saying was when she said that you have to realize and understand you are enough. So often I hear from women that want to go and do different things in life, and they have these big dreams, but they allow that imposter syndrome or their limiting beliefs to hold them back. Never allow anything to hold you back from what you really want to do in life. You're capable of doing it, but it requires that you take the time and start doing it. You cannot sit and wait for some knight in shining armor to come and save you, because baby, he ain't coming. You're gonna have to get on that horse yourself and ride away into the dark. And I promise you, if you would invest in you, that is the best investment you will ever make in life. Because once you invest in you, nobody can take that away from you. So I encourage you, take the time today. The first thing I want you to do is take the time, just like Nicole said, put that oxygen mask on yourself. Take care of you. What can you do today to make yourself feel better? And then I want you to share it with a child, because that child needs to know that there's an adult that cares about them and that will support them and be there for them. You never know what's going on. You never know what they're experiencing in their home. It's not your place to fix it. But how about being just someone they can lean on when they need it? All right. Next week, we have another guest coming in, Miss Juanita Gaynor. And she's going to come in and she's going to talk, excuse me, she's going to talk about what she experienced as a child and how being in the midst of domestic violence and seeing domestic violence as a child, it hindered her life, and it made her um, hesitant to move forward in her entrepreneurship and what she did to get over it. Remember, there's 1 in 15 children that will be a witness to intimate partner violence and abuse in their lifetime. Imagine you have a classroom, and right now in the classroom, there's about 30 kids. At least 2 of them will go home and see intimate partner abuse. That's too many. That's too much. We need to stand firm and do something about it. All right. I'll see y'all next week. Bye bye.